Hello, good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to this segment of this tutorials. And in this tutorials, we are going to learn how to set up a machine learning environment for our data science project using Pip and Pipenv tools, which are all Python tools. So our programming language of choice is going to be Python. So without much ado, I will just go straight to download the Python in our system. So one recommendation that I would make is that you go to the original Python page, that is the main Python page to download, and at the download segment, here it gives us an option to either download the latest version or look at other releases that our program is going to use in order to download with it. But my advice is that do not always install the latest version of Python. This is with the caveat because sometimes these packages, the other packages we need to use, take some time to catch up with the latest version of Python. So this is how it is. Normally, the latest version of Python is released. Then all these packages that work with Python then are uploaded or then are upgraded to work with the latest version of the Python and the latest version of Python. So what I would advise is that do not always download the latest version because sometimes it might not work with the packages that you might be using. You might be getting some minor challenges over there. And this really, you would see this if you are really into like the industry whereby you are working like on more practical tools. So for me personally, I would advise that you either install Python like Python 10. So we can install the latest version of Python 10. It's more than okay. And you could see here that Python is going to provide support for Python 10 up to 2026. So in about a year time, we can now move on. When the other packages catch up with Python 11, we can now move on to that. So in this section, we are going to download Python 3.8. So I'm going to click on the link for Python 3.8. So it presents me with this page, and in this page, it's going to give me an option to download the version that I want. So and these are the files that are available. So depending on the system that you are using, I know most of us will be using 64. But then if you're on a Windows system, then you are either using 64-bit or 32-bit. And I know most of the Windows system that will be using 64-bit machine. So we can do that here. So we are going to click on this site and it will download for us. So after downloading it, we can now check our download in our download directory. Our download is completed here. So we can go ahead and install it. Even though I have Python already installed, I'm going to show you how to install it. It's the way to install it is just like installing any Windows setup, right? But there is a catch to this page, right? So I would advise that we all pay attention here to look at it. So depending on what you want to do. So let's say I'm going to click on modify here, right? So there's no what I want to do here. So are you sure you want to cancel? I'm going to cancel. It's because I already have Python installed. So I'm going to pause this recording, right? Whilst I uninstall my Python, then I can install it again in the manner in which it's working. So I'm going to pause it. So I'm going back to install my Python version. So I'm going to click on it and run it here. So this is the most important. We are going to do the custom and the default installation. So this is the default installation here. But the most important thing is that we would like to add Python. So by default, it's use admin privileges when installing the file.txt. The next thing is that we want to install add python.est to the path. This is because we want to use Python on our terminal or on our command line, as Windows users will typically refer to a terminal. So on the command line, we want to have access to Python on the command line here. So that means that I'm going to click this, and now by the default installation is going to include idle, pip, and the documentation. So the idle is the text editor on which we are going to, it comes with like the Python comes with a pre-packed, yes, a pre-packed text editor, which is known as an idle. Then it also comes with pip. So pip is a tool that allows us to install third-party software packages along with the Python to extend its functionalities. So here I'm going to click on the default installation, and it should take some few minutes to finish installing for us. So at this point as well, I think I can do something else. So we can go back to the steps in which we are going to use, right? So as machine learning forms part of the general study of data science, here there are various ways to look at it. We are going to look at the installation in terms of Windows installation. You know, you can also do same with Linux, which a lot of which is a different flavor of the operating system. But I think here I'm going to use Windows. This particular set of tutorials is referred to as using Windows. So here in this document, I've prepared commands that can run on Windows and the Python version. Sorry, the Windows version and the Linux version. So here I have my Linux version specified here and my Windows version specified here. So as you can see, the steps are in 8 steps. So some of them can be duplicated, some of them can be converted into either steps, but then the first step will be to check to see if the pip is already installed. So at first we are going to confirm if we've had pip installed. Next is that if indeed it's installed and you don't have the latest version, you can try to upgrade it to the latest version as well. The next is to install our virtual environment too. So virtual environment helps us to isolate our packages from the main OS of operating. So this helps us so that we don't have conflicting packages with different projects here and there. So the next step is to make or create a directory whereby we can now configure it will now create a separate directory for our project. So after doing that, we can now install our dependencies in those in those separate directories as a way of configuring the environment that we want to use. And then the 6th step is to activate the virtual environment. And if we activate it, then it means that there is also opportunity for us to also deactivate the virtual environment. So that's the 7th step. The 8th step here is to start our Jupyter notebook. So once we start our Jupyter notebook, the rest is for us to start doing the rest is to go ahead with our Python, our data science project. So I'll go back to my installation here. As you can see, the setup was successful. So I'm going to close it here. And the key that is that we are going to do this through the command line here, through the command line tool here. So I'm going to start my command line here. So I'm going to bring it up here. This is my command line tool here. So first we would have to check if Python is correctly installed. For us to check, all I need is to type the Python 3 command on the terminal here. So once I type the Python 3 command here, I should start Python on the terminal. Okay. So the correct command is Python. So Python has started Python 3 here for us here. So we can see the Python terminal open here. So this is good as the idle that Python comes pre-shipped with. And then there is not so we can also check the Python version here as well by doing Python version. we know this is the Python version that we have. So to also check if pip is also installed, we can also do pip. We can also do pip version. We can also check the version of pip that comes installed with Python. So we have version 22.2.2. So which comes with which comes with Python 3.10 here. So meaning we have two of our most important tools here. Right? So to check the available package, we can check the available packages on the pip command. So there is a way by default, we can have a simple reference point for all pip command, which is you can do a pip help here and it will list the most important command that you can do. I think install, uninstall, and freeze are going to be the most useful command that we are going to use here. But then the pip help command gives you a form of an easy reference documentation that you can use for this one, for installing your packages or for working around with pip. So the next thing is to also introduce you to this website, which is known as Pipenv. So Pipenv here is a form of a central repository that hosts a lot of, or almost all the Python packages that are compatible with Python itself. So this is a form of a repo which has a lot of packages. So for us, whichever package you want to install, all you need to do is to type in the name. So one of the packages that we are going to use is the Pipenv2. So it will bring us various options. I think mostly the first one will lead you to the original package that you want to do. So it's going to lead you to this one, whereby it will give you the command to install this one and the Pipenv2. So as I said, one of the first steps that we will need is that we need to have Python and pip installed. Then the next thing is that we also need to have Pipenv installed. So Pipenv is the virtual environment tool. So there are various virtual environment tools that comes with Python. One of them is Pipenv, and the other one is for virtual env. You can see here, virtual env. They almost do the same thing, but then I prefer we go with Pipenv. The reason being that once we install Pipenv, it gives us an opportunity to create an environment while still using the pip install, the pip2. You get it? So with the virtual env, you would have to install the virtual env, and the command you have to now go back to the pip install command. But then when you do pip install Pipenv, now Pipenv combines both the command, it combines both the functionality of the pip2 here and the virtual env2. So it's like a 2-in-1 tool that does one thing. I hope you get me. So that's that one thing. So first, that's that two things, sorry. So first, it can create a virtual environment for you, then it will also help you to install your packages in your repository, so or in the environment that you want to do. So the next thing is for us to install that tool, and to install it, we are going to use pip install Pipenv. So this is the last time you're going to do something like pip install. So it tells me that I already have Pipenv installed. Assuming I didn't have Pipenv installed, it's going to install it for me. So it has confirmed that I have Pipenv installed. So the next thing, after confirming for me here, the next thing is for me to create my directory for my project, right? So typically, it will depend on where you want to position your project, as in your project within your Windows directory. So for me, preferably, I prefer to be in the documents directory. So I'm going to change my directory into the CD directory. Then I'm going to use the make-dir command to create a folder of my choice. So I'm going to create a folder and call it Python for data science. So after creating the folder, I'm going to cd into my folder, Python for data science. I'm going to cd into the folder. So next is for me to install my packages here. So now with the pipenv tool, I told you that pipenv tool now combines the functionality of the pip and the what and the virtual environment. So whilst installing your tools for you, it also creates what a virtual environment for you. And the default page of it will give you how to use it, like it will give you the various commands on how to use it. But here the most important one is also going to be the install that we're going to see. So here's it, and if you want to create a specific, if you want to configure your environment with a specific version of Python, you can do that here. But this is one of the commands that we're going to use here. Pip install in the name of the name of the package we are going to use. Okay. So by default, since we are configuring our virtual environment, we are going to need, since we are configuring our project environment for data science, we are going to need data science tool or packages that comes with it. And here, the most popular tools that comes with them are the Jupyter Notebook, the pandas, the numpy library, the matplotlib library. So numpy library is for performing numerical computation or numerical Python. So performing numerical computation with Python. Then we have matplotlib, which is for data visualization. So it's a lower library. And seaborn is a rather higher library, which is built on top of matplotlib. Then we have scikit-learn, which is the machine learning library for performing a lot of, for building our models and doing a lot of stuff related to the machine learning. So this tool here would help you configure your data science library, your data science environment. So I'm going to run this command here. So this command are in two folds. If you want to install a single package, all you need to do is to do pipenv install pandas. That means you need to be in the directory, that is your project directory that you created here in CD. And as you can see, I am in there, which is known as Python for data science. And you can use the tool to store a single package like this or install multiple packages as here. So the goal is to install multiple packages at once. So I'm going to do pipenv install Jupyter Notebook. So the Jupyter Notebook is both the server and the notebook on which we are going to run a lot of which we are going to use to develop our data science model. So that is the environment. So Jupyter Notebook is akin to what we call like is similar to what we have in Visual Studio Code, right? So it's a form of an IDE, but it's a data science related IDE that we use, yeah, for developing our models. So next is the pandas library, then the numpy library, then the matplotlib library, then we are going to have a seaborn library, then we are going to have our scikit-learn library. Scikit-learn library. So I'm going to press enter to install them. It's going to take a bit of time. So let me quickly take you back to the pipenv here. So assuming the libraries that I was installing, all you need to do is type pandas here, right? So pandas here, it will show you what pandas is all about. So this is the project description. So this is the original project description for pandas here. So this is the pandas. It tells you what pandas is all about. So here is it. So typically, if we're using the pip tool, it would have the command to install our pandas library would have been pip install pandas. But I told you that we are using a higher level or a smarter package, which is known as pipenv. So pipenv will combine both the functionalities of the pip here and the virtual environment, so that once it's installing your package for you, it's also creating it in a virtual environment for you, which you don't. If you have to use virtual, then you have to use virtual, and that will configure your environment, and now come back to use pip to install your packages. So I advise that a lot of times newbies stay with the pipenv tool, which is much simpler and intuitive. So this is the Jupyter package as well. So here's the Jupyter, what the Jupyter is all about. So install the Jupyter system, including the notebook and IPython kernel, which allows us to write Python code. We can write all our project code in here. So then this is what the seaborn library is also about. So the seaborn library is for statistical data with visualization, but it's a higher library which is built on top of matplotlib. As I said, seaborn is a Python visualization library based on the matplotlib. It provides a high-level interface for drawing attractive and statistical graphs. So let's go back. It's still installing here. So at this moment, I think I'm going to pause the recording here, and if our packages finish installing, I would now go back again to continue with the work. So I'm going to pause the recording for a moment. Yes, so let's continue with our recording. At the moment, our packages have all completed. We've completely installed all the packages here. So the next is for us to activate our project directory, meaning we are going to activate the virtual environment here. So I'm going to do a pipenv shell. So typically, it would even give you an idea of the command that you can use. The first command here is what you are going to use to activate the virtual environment here. So to confirm that your virtual environment has been activated, at the extreme left-hand side of the terminal or the command line, you would see that a bracket has been surrounded with what the name of your project directory here, meaning that you activated that virtual environment and you can go ahead to use the tools and the packages that you've installed here. So now we are going to start our Jupyter notebook. So the command to start it is Jupyter-notebook as spelled out in here. So Jupyter-notebook here. So that is a command to start. So our notebook. So I'm going to click. I'm going to type on this and click it. So what this does is that it uses your browser as the hosting environment for starting the Jupyter or for running the Jupyter notebook here. So here you don't have to go an extra mile of installing an IDE, such as installing a Visual Studio Code or any of the IDEs in order to have a Jupyter notebook running. Just a browser alone will be more than enough. And this also gives you another added advantage, because especially to those who aren't familiar with directory, as in the command line, as working in the terminal. Once you run your Jupyter notebook here in the same project directory, it gives you easy access to all the files that is within the directory. I hope you get me. So you don't have to now go and type longer path to find out where certain files are. So for the first time, it's going to take a bit of time to start your Jupyter notebook. So it's still trying to run a Jupyter notebook command here as well. So I'm also going to pause it again. Once it runs it will deflate in our but once it does it, then turn back again. So let's continue with what we've been doing so far. So when we start our Jupyter notebook in a fresh directory, now fresh project directory here, typically you will have two files here. One file is known as the pip file. So as I said, we will typically have two fresh files here. One is the pip file and one is the piplog file. So the pip file here specifies the packages that you use in configuring the environment, to give you a list of all the packages that you use here. And typically the site in which the URL to the site in which it downloaded all the packages here, and the version of Python that you use. Another most important thing about this pipenv tool is that it creates both the piplog file and the pip file. So using this file, you can give this file to anybody, anywhere, for the person to configure the same environment with the same packages that you use. That is an added advantage towards using Pipenv as a tool. So it creates these two files, and if anybody anywhere has these two files, they can replicate the same environment that you've done with your project, which is very important if somebody wants to replicate your work without running into packages, conflicting packages issues. So once we have that one out of the way, the next thing is to start a fresh notebook. So to start it, we'll just click on the new here, and we'll click on the Python 3 kernel here, the IPy kernel. So this is a typical Jupyter notebook where we can start doing our data science project. So for a typical project, we would like to check whether all packages are installed. So we begin by importing our pandas package, PD, with the name alias as well as PD, import our numpy as what as np. Then we'll look at also importing our visualization packages, import matplotlib .pyplot. We are going to use pyplot as plt, and import seaborn as SNS. Then we'll say, okay, import scikit-learn as well. So scikit-learn here. So let's just run it. So once you run these packages and we don't get any error, meaning we've had all our packages properly installed. So here you can check the version as well. But with this command, I can check the version of pandas that I'm using, which is version 1.5.2. I can also check for what numpy, which is so the same can be done for the other packages that we've installed. So typically, this is a typical process of setting up your environment in a Windows system for your data science work. So with this, we are going to come to the end of our lessons here. So lastly is that after doing your work, if you want to now shut down your Jupyter notebook, you can shut it down from this end, from using this command, the logout. So the logout command will successfully log you out of your words of the Jupyter notebook. Then you can now come to your terminal. So your terminal, it is now saving, it is giving you a command that's saving the file here. So saving it here. Another command that you can use to stop running your Jupyter notebook is the Ctrl+C command. So the Ctrl+C command also can be used to log, that is shut down the Jupyter notebook. So once you do that, you are done shutting down your notebook, and you are done. So the rest is just to exit your terminal, and then you can now close your command. So with this brings us to the end of this simple tutorial that we have. Thank you all for paying attention, and thank you all for joining. Have a nice day, please. Let me exit. Let me deactivate the virtual environment. So I've deactivated the virtual environment. So typically, if I type in the Jupyter notebook command, it should raise an error for me. So it means that I've deactivated my environment. So now I can exit the terminal. And that is it. Thank you all. And hopefully, if you have any doubts or any questions, you can post it on the comment section, and I will do my best to respond. Thank you all.